In fact, one of the things I was very eager in this summit, which I didn't come out, I didn't get it, is the French reaction to the cancellation of that project. It was a big project. And I thought that finally, when we talk of big projects, the French had the foot on the door, but it was cancelled. And maybe one of the things I would wanted to know is if I overheard, maybe without them knowing, President Ruto and President Macron discussing about that project, I would really have wanted to know what they discussed. Back to your question. I think this is the biggest problem that we have in this country, that our economics is tied to political cycles. So I have my 5 years as president, my 5 years as an MP, my 5 years as a women rep. All my projects are tied to 5 years. So when I leave, the person who represents me starts afresh. And that was a bit about Kibaki's Vision 2030. It was trying to transcend presidencies, elections, and so on. So the question is whether we are guaranteed these projects will continue. My hope is that they will. That the next president, the next whoever is going to be in France or in Kenya is going to carry these projects around. But it's a big if, because every president who comes has his own or her own projects. I'm using her because we still haven't had a female president in Kenya, and I think I would like us to have one just to see the difference after 60 years. So there's no guarantee this one will be. Will go up to the end, but we hope they can, because they look, from the paper, they look very good projects, and they would benefit majority of Kenyans. Again, we hope that they will be carried through.
Is it between President Ruto and President Macron in individual capacity? Because remember that President Macron is looking for credibility in Europe. President William Ruto appears to be arrived at the political scene and, of course, the global scene, the global stage with a lot of gusto. And he appears to be resetting the configuration of the African setup. Is it between the two individuals or between the two countries and the continent by extension?
If you remember when President Ruto got into power, he tried to front his credentials up as a Pan-Africanist. And I think I would see this conference in the same perspective, that he still believes that he has Pan-African credentials. So both Macron and President Ruto had a chance to showcase their global reach, their global network. And that's why you kept on hearing that presidents are coming, that presidents are coming. So for the purpose of politics, I think it was good for President Ruto, because he is telling Kenyans, my Pan-African credentials are still there. I'm not alone. I'm not isolated. Because after 2024 protests, there was a backlash against Kenya. So he is trying to build new bridges. Now for President Macron, I think he's the greatest beneficiary, because France has not been having very good image in West Africa. They are withdrawing from a lot of countries or being chased away, whichever way you look at it. So to get a new footing in an English-speaking country, that was a coup for Macron. So for Macron, I would say he was a beneficiary because of that. And that's why I was asking earlier, what would France or China, not France, but what would the UK or China say about this? Because it was unusual to have a French Francophone conference in an English-speaking country. Now I also see it in a different perspective. For a long time, Rwanda was the linchpin of French influence in this country, because they speak French and Burundi. But now, if you go to Rwanda for a conference, you speak in English. So maybe the French are realizing that Kenya could be another starting point. Remember, French also have a lot of interest in the Indian Ocean, Comoros, and places like Madagascar. So Kenya would be a very good bridge between the East and West. But to cut the story short, I think the conference, if you look at the list you have put here, the summit, the list you have put here about the projects that would be implemented, I would say it is between Kenya and France. But if you look at it from a political angle, it was between President Ruto and President Macron. And both of them, I'm sure they have something to gain from there. Remember, by bringing all those presidents here, President Macron had a chance to reach out to them. You know, I don't know whether you are married, but the best way to get somebody to marry you and to get closer to you would be to take that person out, maybe in a cafe or for a trip to Mombasa or somewhere else. The conversation changes. So when you get this West African president and bring them to Kenya, I'm sure the conversation would be very different if the conversation was taking place in West Africa. And I think that was the coup that I'm saying President Macron had on those presidents. I'm sure they talked a different language in Kenya as compared to when they were in West Africa elsewhere.
And the French can talk a good game when they take you out, that's for sure.
I have not been a victim of them, but I know they are